If you turn to page 6 on the syllabus, that's chapter 1. We're going to talk a little bit about the problem. What the problem is in the church, what the problem is in the world, and why God has called us to this ministry called reconciliation. We mentioned a little bit ago that the issues that are causing people to miss the mark are usually pretty misunderstood. And so if you'll follow along with me on page 6, we'll talk about that problem. The Apostle Paul understood what holds people back in their walk with the Lord. And he addressed it in his letter to the church of Corinth. If you would look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12, you'll find that it says in the New King James Version, it says, "You're not restricted by us, or you're not held back by us," Paul said, "but you are held back or restricted by your own affections." Another word for affections, of course, is feelings or emotions. He says, you're not held back by any human being. There's no one on earth with the power to hold you back except you. It's our own feelings that hold us back and keep us held in check or drive us in the wrong direction in the case of fear. The natural human thing to do when you feel you're being held back or hurting is to find someone to blame. And that's obviously what they were doing in the church of Corinth. And that's why Paul addressed it in 2 Corinthians 6. However, he was a bit wiser in the church at Corinth than those in the church of Corinth, and in many cases much wiser in this area than the best medical and legal minds of today. Blaming others for our failings in life is not the responsible thing to do. Yet that's kind of what we've all been taught to do when we're hurting or when there's an issue in life. We've been taught to find who is responsible and blame them for it. But does blaming anybody ever fix it? Does blaming anybody ever change things? All it really does is kind of soothe our conscience and helps us believe that maybe we're better than we thought we were, because after all, it's not really our fault. But it doesn't change anything. And the point and purpose of maturing and growing up spiritually is to change what isn't working and to begin to get to that point in life where we can live beyond what normal human beings live beyond. I'm tired of hearing Christians say, well, what do you expect? I'm only human. We're not only human. We have the Spirit of God indwelt on the inside of us. We're baptized. We're covered with the Spirit of God on the outside of us. We have the mind of Christ, accessible to the mind of Christ. We have in James 1:5, we have access to the wisdom of the ages. Everything we have need of, we have in the presence of God on this earth right now. We're not just human. We're superhuman. We're Christians, for Pete's sake. And so let's go on in this page talking about this problem. Blaming others for our failings in life is not the responsible thing to do. Not being responsible in dealing with our own personal issues is one reason we're not adequately responding to the cry of our culture. I tell you what, right now, in many cases, the way I see it anyway, the church is just really, we're not relevant to the cries of our culture, to the needs of the culture. People are struggling and in pain, and they're going from wife to wife and husband to husband and from church to church and from job to job, and they're going crazy, running in circles, going nowhere, haven't got a clue why. And all along, yet we're trying to find other people to blame that on, and what good does that do? It doesn't change anything. And therefore the church is just as irresponsible as the rest of the world is when it comes to dealing with their issues and dealing with the real struggles of life. In other words, the church cannot respond to the needs of society if they do not know how or are unwilling to take care of their own needs. In other words, a person in prison can't unlock the prison door for others. Or a person who's sick can't bring healing to others that are sick. We've either got to be free, or we've got to just say, well, we're no better than the rest of the world, and what is our religion buying us? Well, Jesus didn't come to give us religion. He came to destroy religion. It's religion that's holding us captive right now. And so what we need to do is learn how to walk as Christ walked. 1 John chapter 2, verse 6 says, if anybody claims to live in Him, he must walk as Jesus walked. That's a pretty big command. But it's one we can live up to if we understand how to walk as Jesus walked. How to walk on this earth like Jesus did. Because you see, we're empowered by the same things Jesus was empowered with. People think, well, you know, Jesus was able to do what Jesus did because he had no sin nature. But do you realize when you're born again, your sin nature is destroyed? Colossians 2:11 tells us that it was circumcised with hands, not with human hands. And in Romans 6:6 it says that the old nature of man died so that sin could no longer run roughshod over us or have power over us. The sin issue has been dealt with. And so therefore, the sin nature has been dealt with because he put his Spirit in us, causing us to have the righteousness of God in Christ be our character, or that's our nature. You can't have the nature of the enemy and the nature of God in the same vessel. Wouldn't work. If he hadn't destroyed that sin nature in you, when his Spirit came into you, it would have killed you. So the sin nature is gone. You're just like Jesus was on the earth. But there is a problem that you've got to contend with, and that's where we're going. The next step is, how do we deal with all this? How do we deal with the struggles of life? If we've got all the things in us Jesus had, why aren't we living up to what Jesus lived up to? Well, because we're allowing our feelings to drive us. Oh, no, brother, I don't look behind. I don't look at my feelings. Man, I'm pressing on. No, if you're ignoring your feelings, you're allowing them to run you, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and you'll see exactly how that works. But Paul, let's get back to Paul, 2 Corinthians 6:12. He says the only thing that holds us back is what we're feeling. And bad emotional feelings are really just lies you believe to be true about yourself. That's all they are. Jesus has the antidote for lies. He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. You'll know the truth will make you free. Well, we're approaching things just a little bit off kilter in some respects because we've learned and memorized and done all the work that we're supposed to do, but we're still allowing lies to push us around. Bad feelings, I want you to write this down. I want you to get a hold of it. Bad feelings mean you believe a lie to be true about yourself. That's all they are. Emotional feelings are lies you believe to be true. I'm going to be stating the same thing many, many times throughout this seminar because I believe that the repetition is kind of the mother of mastery, and I want you to grab hold of it. I want you to know that lies believed create your emotional pain. God had to initiate some method of you and I to be alarmed or to be notified when we have something in our soul that stands between Him and us. And the only thing that is that can stand between you and God is a lie. Lies you believe to be true. Jesus said He was the way, the truth, and the life. You see, without a way to truth, there is no life. And so He is the way, and He is the truth to give us life. He says in John 10:10, I've come to give you life and to give it to you most full or abundantly. Yet many Christians aren't living the abundant life. They're struggling. They're dealing with issues. They're running from their issues. They're running from their pains of life. Many are on all kinds of tranquilizers and medication. I'm not here to try to degrade or judge anybody. I'm only here to say that we're not living up to what Jesus gave us, and I think it's because there's some ignorance in the house and we need to rout it out. And so Paul's 2 Corinthians 6:12 is very important to grab hold of. There's nothing that can hold you back but your own feelings. Starting with the next paragraph on page 6, we have lived a lie by thinking we can control our feelings. You know, how many of you think, well, I can control my feelings, I can hide from them, or I can push them out of my mind and they don't even bother me anymore. You see, your feelings were given to you by God to control you. You can't run from your feelings. Your feelings were given to you by God to control you. If you think about it, everything you say and do is driven by a feeling. Now, the first time that truth was presented to me, I said, no, wait a minute, hold it. I had to think that through, but here's what I did. I began to pay attention to everything I said and everything I did. I began to, on purpose, pay attention to what I was doing to determine what the feeling was that was driving me. If that's true, there will be a feeling behind everything you say and do. You cannot be warm and fuzzy and lovey if you're angry, and you cannot be angry if you feel warm and fuzzy. It's just that simple.